Hey, Howard Jacobson here. Welcome to today's Plant Yourself podcast. A quick reminder, this podcast is free for everyone and supported by patrons. So if you would like to find out about becoming a patron of the show and helping us out, helping defray the cost, helping to spread the message, you can do so at plantyourself.com/gift. Thanks so much and enjoy today's episode. Hey everybody, Howard Jacobson here with a special COVID-19 daily edition of the Plant Yourself podcast here in lockdown and day 3 of the lockdown in South Africa. I just finished a Facebook Live with a friend of Plant Yourself and friend of mine, Kathy Hester, the cookbook author and recipe creator and friend extraordinaire, and it's just waiting for it to upload. We were talking about what each of us is doing. She is in lockdown in her house with her family, and we are in lockdown in different circumstances. We've got lots of land to roam about and beautiful vistas and monkeys and so I think I saw some wildebeest today, but very little food. So like for me, like lunch, dinner, whatever it was basmati rice and some canned butter beans. And that's me eating pretty healthy, actually. And Kathy's there, sort of like locked in the house, but with plenty of food, good food, nutritional yeast, and lots of beans and things like that. And it was weird because, we're friends, we hang out a lot, and we live about 35 minutes apart. And here we were so far apart, and Kathy was saying, boy, I wish I could just send you some of the food we've got here. And the truth is, if we were 30 minutes apart, we'd still be pretty far apart right now. It's surreal. So I just went to check if that Facebook Live was up on Facebook on my own profile page, and I saw the cover photo is me and my wife Mia and Josh Lajani and Corin Sutton, and we're all like, hugging in a row and mugging for the camera at a veg fest. And like, my gosh, if we did that today, the authorities would be down on us for social lack of distancing. And so I've been thinking today about the idea of what we can and what we can't control. And control is a really interesting word because it's just there's so many people like this is all out of their control. Like people thought they had their lives figured out. People thought, I've got my career, I've got savings, I kind of know how things are going to go. There might be some uncertainty about elections, but even the existential terror that is another 4 years of our president still felt like, well, the world will sort of go on. And now this feels much more cataclysmic to a lot of us. That like, oh, maybe the world isn't going to go on the way we thought it was. Maybe everything's changed. Maybe my retirement that I thought was there isn't. Maybe the career that I thought I had is simply not coming back. Like, I don't know if people are going to want to pay for health coaching and pay for retreats and pay for online courses on, dealing with chronic disease. Of course they should, right? Because, being chronically ill along with being elderly, are the 2 biggest risk factors for serious complications or death from COVID-19. So logically, everybody should be working on improving their diet, but in fact, people aren't. We're seeing everybody on Facebook and very few people on Well Start Health right now, even though they're in the program, even though it's a social program. People are not looking, by and large, to take control over their health. In a world in which so much illusion of control has been taken away from us, people are grasping for the control that's right in front of their nose. Like, oh, I'm going to, eat this. I'm going to watch that. And it's a form of self-soothing, but it's also a medicine. It's also saying, well, here's my autonomy. I can watch this instead of that. I can eat this instead of that. And I understand where that comes from. But I was reading a piece last night by Charles Eisenstein, which I recommend to everyone who still thinks you have an open mind. It's at charleseisenstein.net. It's probably easy to find. It's a 9,000-word essay that he's been working on for a couple of weeks on COVID-19 and what it means. And he also talks a lot about control. And one of the themes of his writing and thinking and talking over the past 10 years has been that our society is based on the idea of control. It's based on a myth that science will save us, that the more we know and the more technology we have, we'll be able to, eradicate all disease through gene therapy, that our banking system, once we have enough computers looking at everything, we'll be able to manage the economy without ever having a recession, that all of the data that we get from our smartphones on movements and on basically a surveillance state is going to keep us safe from crime and predation, right? I mean, look at the explosion of people buying things like Nest and Google Home, video doorbells, and he points out the paradox there is that the more control we exert, the less safe we feel. We're eradicating disease, and yet our life expectancy is dropping. We have all these security devices in our home, and yet we're more scared than ever. He says, government loves something like COVID-19 because it gets to use these old tools. It's like, government swinging a hammer, and nothing looks like a nail anymore. Obesity doesn't look like a nail. Poverty, injustice, climate change, none of these are nails. None of these can a government say, okay, we're going to go do something about it, because they don't know what to do. But COVID-19, that's a nail. Let's keep people in their homes. Let's set up rules and regulations. Let's bring out the police and the military, as has happened here in South Africa. And let's use all the mechanisms of the state. We're going to track people on their cell phones. Google can now tell you which states are obeying the social distancing the best by looking at our individual cell phone data and seeing how close we are to other people. And so at the same time as we are feeling completely out of control as individuals, the state is exerting this control, and it's the same illusion as we had. All right? Yeah, it's gonna work to some extent for this issue. But Charles Eisenstein points out that this is like COVID-19, as bad as it is not within the same order of magnitude of the number of infant deaths from malnutrition around the world, or the number of suicides around the world, or the things that are going to happen when climate change really manifests and entire populations are going to starve or have to move, or both. That these other problems are not control problems. They are problems that have to be solved in a different way than coercion, force, imposition of the human will on the natural world. And even he points out the things we're doing to protect ourselves from the coronavirus, like this constant hand washing and using alcohol and disinfectants. Of course, we're also killing lots of other things, lots of other bacteria and viruses. We're damaging our microbiome, the things that keep us healthy even when we encounter other stuff. So it's all very complicated, is it not? So as individuals, what are we to make of a world in which we're clinging to shreds of individual control while the state exerts more and more authoritarian/totalitarian control, which might continue well after the disease has peaked? I mean, look at what happened after 9/11. We still have the Patriot Act. We still have all these restrictions. All the things that were put into place as emergency measures became normalized. So are we going to have a normalized society in which we don't get to hug each other, in which everything is virtual, in which gatherings of 100 people or more are forbidden? Sounds, totalitarian to me. And of course, this is a podcast about personal health and responsibility, not about giant political issues, but I wanted to frame the personal within the social and cultural and political because that's the world in which all of us are operating now. If any of us felt, well, I don't pay attention to politics, well, that's a luxury that you can afford as long as politics doesn't pay attention to you. But now we're all in it. We're all feeling the leading edge of a control state. And it may be for good. It may be exactly what we need to do for COVID-19, and it's going to have unintended consequences and side effects. So where can we go once our illusion of control has been smashed? What is left for us? Is there anything that we have internally, any inner strengths that can do what control could never do? I think one of them is being mindful in the moment. Because when we feel like we have control, we often take our eye off the ball. We think everything's fine. Right? We thought we had control over coronaviruses because we handled SARS, and we never updated, our stock of masks and ventilators and respirators, for another emergency because we thought we were in control. We weren't paying attention to what was actually going on, and we ended up in the U.S. 2 months behind. Mindfulness on an individual level means that what we can control is our own actions in the moment. We can't control our thoughts, right? They happen. We don't choose them. They land on us like rain, and so to feel bad about your thoughts or to feel proud about your thoughts is completely irrelevant. We can decide how to respond to those thoughts, and we can build resiliency and we can build skills when the thought comes up that would make us unkind to someone we're sharing quarantine with, or would make us despair as opposed to take an optimistic action that would make us selfish as opposed to serving others. We can, when we are mindful, we can notice the thought and we can breathe through it using all of the stress-proofing, stress-busting techniques that I have been teaching for a long time. And if you don't know what they are, the basic one is simply conscious breath. And you can't practice conscious breath when you're stressed. That's not the time. You don't practice shooting a layup with 4 seconds left in the championship game. You practice the layup when you are by yourself on the court with nobody there, and you do it 1,000 times, 10,000 times, 100,000 times. So then when you're scrimmaging, you can do it under some pressure. Then in the big game, you can do it under more pressure. Now is the time to start practicing conscious, deep breathing where the exhale is longer than the inhale. And start practicing that just 3 times a day for 3 minutes at a time. And just notice where your thoughts go, notice what happens in your body, and get used to it. And learn to tolerate those sensations. Then start thinking slightly stressful thoughts, and then practice the breathing. Start at a 1 out of 10. Then go to a 2 out of 10 and a 3 out of 10, and keep practicing until your muscle memory, until your new default is stressful thought, relaxing breath. That's an element of control. The breath is an element of control that is exquisitely ours. It's so beautiful because we can breathe our entire lives without ever exerting conscious control. When you are asleep or knocked out, your body just breathes. It doesn't need your brain. It doesn't need your neocortex, your big executive function to decide, okay, inhale now, hold it, exhale, okay. Right? If we had to think about it, we couldn't do anything else. And we get to bring the breath under our intentional control, what Daniel Kahneman calls our system 2, our deliberative, slow system. And if we do it enough, and we practice it with grace and with precision through mindfulness, then it gets to the point where that breath pattern, that relaxation, that de-stressing goes from system 2 to system 1. It becomes autonomic. It becomes automatic. Get stressed, deep breathe. Now that's a level of control that cannot be taken away from us. It's the great psychologist Viktor Frankl, who was a survivor of the camps, the Auschwitz, and the Holocaust. said, and I'll paraphrase, I don't have his book or any book here. He said, between the stimulus and response lies our choice, or something like that. There's a pause, and in that pause lies our choice, lies our freedom. So if you want control in your life, this is the place to get it. To when your thoughts, whether it's your internal thoughts or a thought based on what somebody else said to you or something you saw on TV or read in the newspaper or saw online, that a thought that could lead you to an unhelpful action, to unhelpful words, to an unhelpful physiological response, there's our control. To notice it, to be mindful, and to be mindful in the moment means to be mindful before the moment. It means you got to practice that. It's not, for almost any of us, something that is graced. It's something we earn. It's not something that's bestowed upon us. We all have been bestowed, if you want, we've all been graced with the ability to control our nervous system through breath, through awareness. But we got to practice it. We got to use it. So I'm going to leave it there for now. I hope this has been useful. Say one more thing, which is I want to let you know about my tip jar. It's at plantyourself.com/gift, G-I-F-T. And I'm bringing it up now because, as I said, we are in lockdown on South Africa. We were supposed to go home in 3 days, and we're not gonna because nobody's flying. The South African government won't even let us, leave this compound, let alone drive to an airport where, let alone there's no workers, where there's no planes coming in or going out. So we're going to be here for quite a while, and we're staying at a nice place, but it's not cheap, and we're paying for everything back at home, and so if you want to support the show and you want to support me at this time, the tip jar is open, and you can make a one-time payment via PayPal, or you can become a sponsor on a patron on a monthly ongoing basis at Patreon, and you can just do that for this month or next month, however long we're here. That would help. These podcasts are my way of giving to the community, of serving, of frankly not going batshit crazy myself. It's hard for me to do a lot of coaching from here. I can do some. So if you're interested, you can drop me a line, hj@plantyourself.com. And if you're on WhatsApp, then it becomes actually quite easy, which is an app that you can get for a smartphone. But if you find this valuable and you want to throw me, $5-10 to help subsidize this accidental elongated vacation, that would be much appreciated. If you don't have it, if you're pinching because life is challenging for you too financially, totally get it. Do not feel guilty about that in the least. But if you have something extra and you'd like to help a podcaster out, here we are, plantyourself.com/gift. So thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you for staying in touch. Please comment. Please leave comments on either the Facebook post at facebook.com/plantyourself, or when I upload this to plantyourself.com, there's a place for comments, or on Instagram at Ask Howie. This is much more rewarding for me if it's a two-way street, and I would love to hear your thoughts. You might disagree with a whole bunch of stuff I said today. That's cool too. Let's talk about it. So thanks for listening. I'll see you again tomorrow. As always, be well, my friends.
All right, time for thanks. Thanks to Will Ridenauer for allowing me to use his beautiful song Sabali Dawn, the Dance of Peace. You can find more of Will's music at his website, willridenauer.com. And of course, thanks to all of you Plant Yourself podcast patrons. Kim Harrison, Lynn McClellan, Anthony Disson, Brittany Porter, Dominic Maurer, Barbara Whitney, Tammy Black, Amy Good, Amanda Hatherley, Mary Jane Wheeler, Ellen Kennelly, Mr. Cobb, Rachel Behrens, Christine Nielsen, Tina Sharp, Tina Ahern, Jennifer Kanowski, David Bizek, The Mysterious, Michelle X. Elspeth Feldman, Leah Stoller, Alan Christensen, Colleen Peck, Michelle Landry, Josina, Sarah Durkis, Rhymes with Circus, Kelly Cameron, Wayne Pedersen, Janet Selby. Hi, Janet. Claire Adams, Tom Franzak, Jeanette Benham, Gil Sarah, David Donahue, Blair Cyber, Dorona Vizov, Gio and Carolyn Argentati, Jody Friesen, Ruth Ann Funderburg, Misha Rosen, Michael Warbeck, The Equally Mysterious, Tracy Z, Aviva Lael, Alicia Lemus, Rebecca Hughes, Val Linneman, Rhymes with Cinnamon, Nick Harper, Martha Bergner, Susan Ahmad, Nolly Levine, The Inscrutable Harry R., Susan Laverty, The Panda Vegan, Craig Kovic, Adam Sharf, Karen Burry, Heather Morgan, Kelly Machia, Deanne Norton, Bonnie Lynch at Plant Happy Oregon, Sabina Kurtzels, Nigel Davies, Marion Blum, Teresa Coble, Julian Watkins, Breed O'Connell, Shannon Hirschman, Linda Ayat, Holm Hedegaard, Izatu Zinwa, Connie Hainline, Aaron Greer, Alicia Davis, Heather O'Connor, Carolyn Jensen, Sherry Orlikoski of Plant Powered for Health, Karen Smith, Scott Morani, Karen Jo Crabtree, Tanya Lewis, Kirby Burton, Teresa Carell, Kevin McCauley, Elizabeth Rothschild, Ann Jesse, Cheryl Dwyer, Jenny Hazelton, Valerie Peltier, Peter W. Evans, Colleen Harrison, Justin Divich, Joshua Summermeyer, Dennis Bird, Darby Kelly, Lori Fanny, Linnea Lundquist, Valerie Hummel, Emily Iaconelli, Levy Wallach, Rosamund McAtee, Dan Picorni, Stephen Lehman, Patty DiMartino, Mike and Donna Kartz, Deanne Bishop, Bill Brielf, Gunter Schmidt, Marjorie Lewis, Kelly Molden, Trish Adams, Ian Kramer, Nancy Sheldon, Lindsay Bayshore, Gunmarie Hagan, Tracy Gullidge, Laura Heaton, Meg from Mama Says, Rochelle Kennedy, Diana Goldman, Stacey Stokes, Ben Savage, Michael Kay, Holly Butler, David Hughes, Connie Rogers, Claire England, Sally Robertson, Paran Ganshi, Amy Daly, Brian Tourville, Mark Jeffrey Johnson, Josie Dempsey, Karen Schmidt, Pamela Hayden, Emily Perryman, Olga Sidorowska, Allison Corbett, Richard Stone, Lauren Vaught of Edible Musings, Aaron Hasty, Sean Owen, Sagar Nayak, Erica Piedra, Danielle Roberts, and Michael Lushton for your generous support of the podcast. That's it for now. As always, be well, my friends.